Hi there, listeners, and welcome to the Wednesday live stream of the Offline Network. Misho is finally going public, and as it turns out, we have one of the guests we have today for you. In fact, we are the only guest we have for you today. Happens to be an early investor in Misho, so that's going to be very, very exciting. Utsav, great to see you. How are you doing?
All well, excited. I mean, a bunch of things happening on the internet as well. So let's quickly run them for our listeners, run through them
Let's do it.
for our listeners. USD INR is touching 90. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
We're also going to stay away from some controversial things. Government's asking to preload this app called Sanchar Sathi on the phones being made and sold in India.
Sanchar literally translates to what, Utsav? Communication. It's your comms buddy on your
Yeah,
phone.
but the kind of permissions that they're asking you for your Android phone, I think they're absurd. Like they're basically, I mean, it's surveillance state at scale. So there has been pushback on Twitter on this. I don't have a particular opinion on the specifics, so I think we'll save that for another time.
We'll do that. Yes.
But let's jump to this e-lafda, which was happening. E-lafda is a term that you also learned recently from our colleague Ash as well, right? Gary Tan from YC has been posting with Zoho, where he says that Zoho's business would be the first to be competed away by people building their own apps using vibe coding. So why pay $30 a month for over-bundled SaaS? And then Wembu says that let me make a bet with Gary Tan. We will outshine and outlast his vibe coding companies. What's your take on this whole thing?
Vibe coding. So you remember we had the CTO of Innovator and we asked him this question that
Yeah.
can someone vibe code your data platform? And I think his answer was quite telling, which is at least right now vibe coding works great for side quests, experimental projects, consumer apps. But let's be clear, Zoho doesn't sell directly to the consumer. In fact, most of Zoho's customers are large enterprise customers who care about security, they care about privacy, they care about things like that. Think about it this way, right? Like, so, I work out maybe 3 or 4 days a week in my home gym. If I were training for the Olympics, I wouldn't be doing this, right? And so I think that's what I think about this.
It's you can have both opinions right now, but technology moves very, very fast. Also, right? I mean, 4 years back, we couldn't even imagine what ChatGPT can do right now, and all the image editing, video editing, all of these are like cute, nice things to have. But I
Yeah,
think eventually this might morph
it
into a
might.
place or evolve into a place where you can literally build your
And
own software.
as we keep talking often, I think we have to hold both of these thoughts in our minds simultaneously, and that's baffling. I will remind you one thing though. You know, like 5 years ago, if you were pitching to VCs and they asked you, "Hey, who's developed the product?" and you said, "If you didn't have an in-house development team, if you'd outsourced it, you could forget all about the check." Now, the same crop is talking all about vibe coding.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about the LLMs power and the models powering all of this. Sam Altman has declared a code red in an internal memo. He wants to delay the ads, which I think was found online that he's trying to do ads in ChatGPT as well, but it wants to allocate more resources in improving ChatGPT. They, of course, fear that Google is catching up fast as well. Gemini now has over 650 million in monthly actives,
Yeah,
and
and
ChatGPT
ChatGPT
project
had
1 billion weekly active in 2025,
crazy.
almost one-eighth of the world population.
I don't know if you saw this, but Thrive and OpenAI also announced some kind of a partnership.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
doing Thrive Holdings. So it's one of the, I mean, tech Ps, right? I mean, we were discussing about bending spoons also in the morning. And we'll probably do a longer, I mean, sort of segment on them as well. But fascinating company out of Italy, which has raised 2.8 billion in debt and some equity at 11 billion valuation. And they bought Eventbrite recently.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing some of this, I mean, they bought AOL and like other old, I mean, these 20-year-old Silicon Valley companies where I think they'll try to sprinkle it with AI. So that I think is what Thrive is also planning to do with sort of buying these small businesses and I think trying to do AI powered efficiency improvements in those companies.
Did you finally get around to reading that the piece on Thrive and Josh Kushner that came out?
Absolutely
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah, very
And
well.
those guys just do such nice ones. They did one on Green Oaks Neil as well. That was
Yeah.
great to read.
I think their approach has been very interesting. They do these capstone pieces. In other words, they'll bring out someone who's not yet come and spoken about their journey, and then they go really, really deep. It's an interesting approach. It's different from ours, but one we can definitely get behind.
All right, Travis has come out of his Twitter break. He's posting about a new side quest that he's doing, Backgammon. Have you played the game?
It's Chinese checkers or something, right? Like I haven't really, it's very popular in China from what I know,
All right. I
unless I'm
honestly
mistaken.
I
Yeah.
haven't played as well, but I think he's posting and trying to find somebody. Last time, somebody who picked up on this ended up becoming a billionaire. So I think good for folks to pay attention to this.
Those Shackleton kind of posts that they put out, right? Like men wanted, yeah. Hmm. Interesting.
All right, let's welcome our first and only guest for today, Arjun. Arjun, welcome to the show.
You must really be scraping the bottom of the barrel, dude, to have me here.
Nahi, yaar, we wanted somebody from the Bollywood industry to come on the show for the
All
first.
right.
So,
Well,
folks,
it's tricky. It's tricky out there for me. If I want to chat to you, I have to show up on the podcast to do it, man.
not at all. We're looking for, I mean, IMDb and first degree connection. So you came up.
That's
By the
true.
way, for the listeners who are hearing about this for the first time, Arjun has been on a movie with Alia Bhatt called Highway. So check it out.
Yeah. It makes me look really bad. So
Let's start from there. How was that experience?
honestly, it was amazing. Like I was blown away by the quality of the organization, the professionalism of all of it. Like you show up to the set, and it's kind of interesting because every little department is its own independent unit, and they're all like freelancers, contractors.
Hmm.
But the job is so well defined. So like the lighting team is the silo that's just doing lighting. Sound team is just doing sound. Yet they work together so incredibly well. The one thing I learned that kind of surprised me, I always thought that when you shoot movies, you'll have like, if you look in scenes, there's generally a view over someone's shoulder that's showing the other person that they're talking to. So I
Yeah.
always figured there's one camera here, like looking over the shoulder that way, the guy I'm talking to, and one over the other shoulder. But it's not like it's single camera shots, and they do the whole scene with the lighting set up that way. Then they do like a 20-minute break, move the lighting rigs around, and shoot the entire scene from the other side. So quite surprising, but surprisingly like professional and well managed and efficient. It was awesome.
What's next on your Bollywood roster? When are you coming
Yeah,
in the movie
I'm
again?
done, man. I'm losing my hair now. I'm 35. This is well past my peak.
Chalo, but I mean, good news for you. Meesho is going public, and I've read just now that 78% of the retail subscription has happened as well. And I think in the first hour itself. So, congrats to the company with it and everyone in the team.
That's awesome. That's awesome. No, I haven't followed the news today, but that's awesome to see. And I think it's an IPO we're all really excited about.
So, let's do a history recap. Like, I remember Rohan had
Yeah.
introduced me to Vidit in 2016 over this email, which I still have very fresh in my memory because that email said that here's Vidit, please bring Utsav in. I know you're oversubscribed at 8 million cap and Utsav will be helpful and all of that stuff. But that investment didn't materialize. So it counts as my biggest anti portfolio as well. Would have been a good multi-million dollar payout as well. But tell us your story on how did you meet with it and what did you like in the very early days? Go back to 2016.
So, it was twice. Firstly, we met him when he was starting Fashionio, which was a hyper local on demand fashion startup. What these guys did was, I mean, I wouldn't recommend to anyone. They made a spreadsheet
Hmm.
and they put every single space on one side and every single business model that caters to it on one side.
Hmm.
So, like on demand, and then you've got fashion or electronics or something else. And they found that in
What
this
Tiger
market,
Global was doing basically.
exactly. I mean, it's funny because we talk about being bottom-up investors, and these guys did the one thing that I wouldn't like advise anyone to do. But
Hmm.
anyway, they felt that on-demand, hyper-local fashion was the space that like no one had really done anything. And it was literally that simple. And it didn't work out. So it was an app through which you'd order clothes from stores near you. But what did work is over the next 6 months, he sat inside these local stores. He saw that the guy now had a smartphone. He was taking pictures of the clothes, sending it on WhatsApp to his customers, starting to do a lot of business with customers who weren't even walking in anymore. And so it was only 4 or 5 months later that the product was rebuilt as Meesho to cater to these people to help with WhatsApp distribution, actually. And like what excited us about it was just it's a really clunky experience. So if you're going through that, then there's got to be a latent pain point where people are really kind of going like looking for discovery of these fashion items and not getting it on Jabong, Myntra, Snapdeal at the time. And like when we put that behavior together with the fact that you realize that in India, fashion and actually most industries are mainly unbranded long tail industries, you realize that a Flipkart type of a Myntra type of experience doesn't work because those things are more like a Google. Like you search for something, you never go beyond the first page. So if you're going unbranded long tail, you need a discovery led experience rather than an intent driven experience. So it was very unclear. And actually, in my original emails, I've introduced Misho to a bunch of people, describing it as a product suite for resellers. So it was almost more like a SaaS description. But I think really what pulled us was just the latent pain point, and seeing people like seeing it solve a problem for people without knowing what the business model would be.
What was it like though? Do you think the business would be misunderstood by people if you were introducing them to someone in the valley, Arjun, as a Shopify
Honestly,
clone?
yeah. Honestly, people in the valley had a better grasp of it,
Oh,
I would say, than they did over here. And I think part of the reason for that is we, like the people who are investing, are too close to a tier one type of like metro audience. And they were laughed out of a couple of VC offices over here because people looked at the chats on WhatsApp and said this thing is spam, like
yeah.
it's not actually a business. Whereas people in the valley like kind of had this romanticized idea of India and the hinterlands, and like they were very open with having no idea how things worked. Whereas over here we know enough to be dangerous, you know?
And
We'll
man,
get back to Utsav. I'm going to ask one
huh,
question I've
yeah.
been waiting to ask. So we'll get back to Misha in a second, Arjun. But is this a big? Is this the first IPO coming out of your portfolio, or have there been others?
It is the first IPO.
Do
It's
you
the
think
first
this
seed,
is when you
it's the
rebrand
first
the
seed to
firm? I think you can go up a notch in terms of which superlative you use. Better's already taken. Maybe this is time to be the best. To be best, better.
I don't think we need to outdo ourselves like that, but
Okay.
it's the first seed to IPO. But I'm hoping we have an IPO every year now, to be honest, every 18 months. I've got the next four lined up. So
Oh
Or
wow.
maybe you change names every year. You go from being good to best to excellent capital and in
Eventually, like GOAT capital, like the greatest of all time. But dude,
Well,
no,
well, good.
congrats. I think what you and Rohan have built at GOAT Capital, I think it's phenomenal. And I think, I mean, so much is said about having conviction in founders, and Misho's gone through so many pivots, and you guys held your ground. Like I think you doubled down across rounds as well. You supported him. You've spoken about Misho in such a positive light all
Well,
throughout this journey as well.
I sort of want to say why, right? Because I think this bit that you just said that Misho's been through so many pivots, in my opinion, is one of the biggest misconceptions. Like to me, it's just been a natural evolution of the business model every step of the way. And so Vidit has just been incredibly foresighted about knowing where value can be created next and being able to move to those things. And there is a little bit of a narrative right now that Misho went from this pivot to that pivot to that pivot. But really, it's like the equivalent of backward integration in a typical business. Once you have power over suppliers and you kind of move up the value chain, that's exactly what's happened over here. And I think he's just his foresight is a lot more than usual. So it's been easy, in fact, through him being able to articulate where the problems are, where the
For our listeners, describe that evolution, like from 2016 till the IPO Misho.
yeah, so like I'll forget the Fashionner to Misho one. From Misho, it was just a thing where you could add products. You'd take the images on WhatsApp, you'd upload them to your shop. Mary shop was Misho, and you'd have your own page. So I had one actually at the time, misho.com/youngrgz, which was my Twitter handle at that point. And you could just upload pictures and they become individual product SKUs. And you can put a price on them, you can put a description on them, and on one product, you can have 4 or 5 images, and you get a share to WhatsApp button. So you could use that, and it would just be like a beautifully well organized WhatsApp message with a payment link as well, and size and inventory updated and all of that. So we felt that, okay, there's this general pain point, this is what it's got to be. Then what he realized, there was obviously a lot of engagement, but no real money being made. What he realized was that the best resellers were running out of things to sell. So his power users were actually the most underserved by him. And so then the next natural step was create a supply, like get them good supply. So he created a supply marketplace. He went to contract manufacturers, wholesalers, tied up with them, got good quality supply, and started listing it on a different app at the time called Misho Supply. It wasn't Meesho. Ultimately, he shut the Meesho app down, and Meesho Supply became where everyone went to get really high quality fashion products. Then over time, they integrated from working with wholesalers, they were working with contract manufacturers. So they moved up the value chain that way. And then I think there was just a big understanding that Meesho is very clearly a value play for buyers. It's you can get the cheapest possible price, and people don't care so much about convenience. They don't care about return so much. And normally, when you buy something on Amazon, the price bakes in the unit economics, which include a certain return rate. You've got guys who have like 50% return rates. You still pay the tax on that by having a higher price. Next day shipping, for instance, even if you don't care about it, you're paying a general premium across the market. So that got sachetized, where there's a basic level price, and then there's a price for all these premium add-ons, which actually it turns out most of this audience doesn't really care about. And so that was like the next evolution to bring down prices even more. And then Valmo came about as well because logistics is such a large part of cost. And so if you can do it cheaper, part of the reason Valmo works is if I'm shipping a 200 rupee product to you, you're sitting in Delhi. If I'm shipping it from Kerala or something, the cost of shipment is going to be prohibitive for you to buy. So actually the demand that you should look at should be more local. It should be maybe more Punjab stuff, maybe more Haryana stuff, but not stuff that you're seeing down there. And so their supply chains were incredibly localized, so products wouldn't have to go to a central hub and then get moved down. Now, when you're dealing with such fragmented logistics ecosystems, being able, like, it was new for even a lot of the 3PLs. So if they could just give their own software to do it and enable smaller contractors to take on deliveries and handle like first mile, last mile, and the middle, then you can actually lower cost as well. So it's been a pretty natural evolution, I think, in that sense.
Ecom Express, do you remember? I think, Meesho was like 40% of the business.
Yeah.
When they filed for IPO, I think they didn't go through successfully, right? And they ended up selling to delivery because of that, like huge concentration risk.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean,
a good play by Meesho, right? I think to bring it in-house.
yeah,
Well,
look,
I'll try and summarize the evolution for myself and for our listeners. Let me take a crack at it. You said it started with discovery, enabling discovery for resellers, then solving inventory problems, then in a sense contracting compressing or contracting the supply chain. You can get stuff from closer than further away, and then eventually built an entire ecosystem around this.
Yeah.
Am I getting this right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And look, it's not nice to see guys like Ecom Express go out of business, but I think part of what happened was Meesho came a little bit out of nowhere for this audience. And so a lot of the logistics players trying to serve this audience necessarily had to have huge concentration risk on Meesho. And I think that's a point in time thing as we have other players, maybe like smaller brands even cater to this segment. You'll see the supply chains build out a little bit more in.
The other question to ask would be, why was it so hard for anyone else to be able to replicate what Misho did?
Yeah, I mean, it is even now. I think a big part of that is, well, now it's changed. For a long time. It was that your suppliers were local, so you had products that weren't available on other platforms. Uh, Today, I think it's more that Meesho as a brand has become so synonymous with value. So it's got to that kind of scale, but it took a long time to get there. And it's totally different business models. Like a Flipkart and Amazon have such a different cost structure. The size of Meesho, as like in terms of number of people, is something like 1/15th the size of Flipkart. So the cost structure is built around value every step of the way. And like Flipkart makes its money largely in electronics, and the AOVs on those platforms are much higher than they are on Meesho. So you have to make money in different ways. I mean, another like one of the evolutions we didn't talk about was monetization. Going to zero commission was a big move that delivers value, being able to serve at a low AOV. So again, you monetize that through seller advertising. And again, that's now touching upon something that other platforms are not being able to compete with. Like I said, Flipkart, Amazon, intent driven, search driven, first page, you don't go past it. Meesho's totally algorithmic discovery of products. And so, given how it's almost like TikTok used to be incredibly good at showing you the perfect reel, it's applying that to e-commerce now. And that's just not the experience that a lot of these other guys are going for. So they managed to replicate the discovery experience you had. Earlier, you were going through someone who knew you, a reseller who was like a friend of a friend or something. So they
Mm.
had a sense of your taste. There were a lot of proxies. Now the algorithm does that very well. So it's a very different interface. I mean, we had another company do something like this called SimSim, which was video-based e-commerce. And again, that was more reseller-led. So they gave video tools to the resellers to do that personalization. But Meesho successfully got to a point of doing it algorithmically now.
And do you know the numbers for Meesho, like in terms of AOV? What are the unit economics there, like average, like I mean, cost structures and stuff? If you want to like share with our listeners, or
I don't have a lot of it handy in a while. Like I do my analysis every 18 months and then I put my hope and faith in with it. But I know AOVs were around 220 or so, I think. And
270, I think, was the number that we have with us.
hopefully they'll get to 220 because actually the cheaper they get, and this is the other interesting thing, is
Wow.
that this or you and I will do basket shopping. We'll add 5, 10 items to a basket and shop. Um, Frequency is really, really important for Meesho. And so because that audience will go out and just get one thing. So that's what you need to be replicating rather than going to a mall, going to like a um, consolidated shopping center. So the lower you can bring AOVs and reduce the friction of buying, you actually want to be able to see people shopping 15, 20 times a year.
And has Vidit shared his views on quick commerce publicly anywhere or with you privately?
I just don't know how much quick commerce applies to this segment today. It'll evolve, but I just don't know how much that is a value today because
Maybe let's ask a people question, Arjun. Oh, sorry, you were.
I think like the value to this audience is assortment rather than speed. So you need a lot of supply and obviously at a really good price, but you don't want it tomorrow.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've heard this from another close founder friend and seen it for myself. The on-ground behavior is people will just, saunter around their neighborhood stores, walk in and say, "Aaj naya kya hai?" Or, they want to see novelty in the
Sorry.
in the store. I was going to ask you people questions. What are Vidit and Sanjeev like? What are the other leaders in Meesho like? Maybe that's, at least for me, that's my final question in Meesho. We'll talk about a bunch of other things.
Well, they're incredibly. Vidit, firstly, is like a once in a generation type of entrepreneur. And I know that phrase gets thrown around, but he's really, really
But did you
unusual.
know that the first time you met him, or have you
No,
built that
no,
over time?
no, he's developed and he continues to develop. Like he's someone who's really deliberate about putting time aside to spend it outside the business, thinking about like if I'm hiring leaders over here, then how do I even know that they might to me be the best possible leaders I know, but I need to be spending time with, say, Fortune 100 CXOs to know what the benchmark for a certain CXO is and like how they go about their thing. And I think he's an incredibly critical thinker, which means he will step out and seeks feedback a lot, like thinks about his own actions, his own leadership. And I think a big reason why these natural evolutions of Misho have happened so much earlier than people would expect is because he's really deliberate about taking this time to step aside and think about the bigger picture and where the business should be going rather than being totally caught up in the operations bit, which in the business like this is tricky. And Sanjeev is fantastic too. Like the amazing thing is how complementary they are. Because they've been together from day one, they have very different roles. And I mean, Sanjeev has obviously done a ton on the product, and the fact that you've been able to replicate discovery led buying through an algorithm instead of through resellers is a powerful thing. But also, he's a fun guy, to be honest. And so, when you've got one leader who's really charging things ahead, having a guy who's also like the one um, getting people to have a fun time while doing it is important. So very complementary.
That's been important to you as well, right? Personally, keeping things fun as you build good capital and
Dhruv
grow
was
good founders.
mentioning that Diwali video that we did in 2015, which I was not very keen to do, but that was a really fun,
Zenefits.
yeah, the Zenefits style Diwali video.
That's amazing. I need to find the segment with you in it. I need to get you to do like a little bit more stuff that embarrasses you, Utsav.
Dude,
So
this show is
This is
literally
it.
that. Like, I mean, honestly, we were not comfortable stepping in front of camera, but you guys have done a good job in terms of content. Like, I think your content engine is solid in terms of just what you're doing, putting out thought pieces on your blog or your newsletters and everything.
thanks. Yeah, we've got the, one of the things we've done well to do it is marketing's always thought of as a separate activity, often like a bolt-on. We have internal forums where we're talking about really interesting things and exploring bigger ideas, talking about why business models work and don't work. So we have obviously a weekly investment meeting. We have a weekly ideas meeting where the agenda is different every week, but basically everyone on the investment team comes in and like pitches everyone else on the 3, 4 really interesting articles they've read and why they're compelling or worth a read. And then once a month, we work on a longer form type of content or idea, and then tackle that in one of the monthly ideas meetings. So being able to have these specific forums and then plugging them into our content engine has meant that rather than standalone thought pieces or throwaways, they're coming from stuff we're actually talking about and applying day to day and our current. The downside is we're out of the news cycle somewhat. And I'm not like so plugged in on a day-to-day basis with what's happening, but it comes up. I have no willpower. So for me, I end up blocking all of these social media apps most of the time, to be honest.
You should just tune into TUN and get all your news download from here. We're trying to trying very hard, and our team has been doing a great job as well to help us curate these pieces for people to know in a quick 5 7 minute snapshot, and then we bring these two founders into I mean operators, founders, investors.
Yeah.
Twice a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then we just chat about their business, snapshot of the industry, and I think just casually catch up on news as well.
I mean, unfortunately, that's the only access I have to the offline network because you say as a founder, as an investor, I'm not allowed to do it, even though I'd argue that I'm a founder because this firm didn't come into existence spontaneously.
All right, you'll get the next invite. You'll get the next invite. And dude, our mutual friend Karan Kumar tells me that you use a lot of AI, and you've posted about Whisper Flow being one of your favorite tools as well. So tell us your full stack. I think you posted on X, but for our listeners, like what is
Whisper Flow is, I'm an idiot, firstly. Whisper Flow is the reason I'm an idiot because Tanay Kothari, the co-founder, was my intern 9 years ago. And
holy shit?
he was always a genius. Like he was always going to go on to do incredible things. Um, and anyway, so he's incredible. Uh, Whisper Flow, something that I use all the time. Granola, obviously, I use all the time. What I've been using a lot of recently is just, and everything's collapsing into this, is just Claude Code, and I'm figuring out what my workflows are for how to use it well. Um, there's a guy called Daniel Miesler who has a personal AI infrastructure project called PAI. And what it does is it has a series of Claude skills and workflows which make your interactions through Claude Code with basic tasks that you're trying to do. It takes them through really comprehensive long-term workflows. So for instance, if I'm writing an article about something and I want to illustrate the idea, I can throw it that text and say, hey, I need your help visualizing this. It triggers an art skill, which within it will take everything that we've written, put it through another, they call it a pattern, where they read it, they try and understand in a 24-step arc what is the narrative that is trying to be conveyed. So it outputs that story explanation. Then it takes that, and there's another skill which is chained to it, which talks about how to visualize it. Then it takes that, pushes all of that along with the ideas to Nano Banana, and finally gives you back an image that explains the entire idea. So all of that for me to do is
Wow.
not something that I could prompt. It's something that requires like an entire workflow of stuff to happen. So I'm just spending a lot of time on Claude Code. I actually built a little game called Venture Lord. I think it's on venturelord.vc or something. There
Oh,
used to be
wow.
a game called Drug Lord. I don't know. Did you ever play this when you were younger? Drug Lord 2?
No, no.
It's basically you're a drug dealer, basically. And like there's a market price of drugs. You can only buy 4 or 5 at a time. And then
Hmm.
you click next day and then the price goes up or down.
Hmm.
And there's external fluctuations. So like the DEA might do a raid, and if they do a raid and capture a lot of the drugs on the market, then the price of those drugs will go up. So suddenly you can sell what you have. Or if you're crossing customs, like your inventory might get confiscated. So I took those ideas, applied them to venture capital, building a portfolio. And so
That's
it's quite a fun little strategy game.
that's literally what venture capital is. Like shit goes up and down. Nice. Amazing. VentureLord.vc.
Yeah, check it out.
Amazing. And what else is up with you? Like, I mean, at Good Capital, like you've recently closed fund two at 30 million.
Yeah, yeah.
And you shared some stats as well previously about the fund one.
Yeah, so well, there's Fund Zero, which was like a personal portfolio which we did Misho out of. Fund One, the big early outcome in the first year actually was SimSim, which was acquired by Google. And now the ones that I'm most excited about or that are furthest along is Solar Square is one, which is doing really well. So they're a rooftop solar business. We seeded them. Orange Health is another. I don't know if you've used them for
Dude,
diagnostic.
I love it. Like, I think that's one of the best ones and the cleanest and fastest and quickest, most reliable. And their app also is improved significantly where you can have that visual this thing and you can upload your PDFs also now
Dude,
faster.
if you're into this, and I know you are because we talked about this the last time you were here, there's an app called Nori.ai,
Okay.
which takes all your analytics from whatever devices you've got, Whoop or Garmin or Apple Watch, and you can also upload these lab reports. And most of these apps will give you like analytics that are actually not that useful. This gives you a really deeply written weekly report that's consistent about what your long-term health issues are, what your trend on major areas is. It's kind of it's pretty incredible. Check that out.
Nice. Right now, I have a private project on ChatGPT to do all of this, where I just keep feeding in like, I mean, separate ones for my family members and
And
just my
then
personal.
in another episode,
Oh,
it's have said he trusts that more than his physician, and his physician unsubscribed the channel right there and then.
But Arjun, do you trust like say a CA or a lawyer or I mean, do you trust ChatGPT more than a CA, lawyer, or say even a doctor right now for most basic stuff?
firstly, I hate ChatGPT and I use Claude, and anyone who uses ChatGPT should do the same. It's like so annoying and
But that's
verbose.
changing for me. Like I am now a Gemini user, and for real-time news, I do Grok. So it's a combination of tools. But ChatGPT, of course, is like I mean, painting everyone under the same brush.
By the way, do you use command mode on Whisper Flow?
I don't.
Command mode is cool. So it's normally you press like the globe button and you're dictating. For me, the shortcut is globe and like FN and option.
When it's always on and it's listening, and your stream of consciousness is, it can transcribe it.
No, this is not transcribing. This takes whatever you say and it searches it through Perplexity and outputs it immediately, which
Oh,
is quite cool.
oh,
Um,
nice.
but but to your question, Utsav, yeah, I mean, I think you need to get like a second and third opinion from a couple of these AIs at a time. You can't fully trust them. But I think because they make stuff up and they'll generally agree with you on something. What I like about Claude is it pushes back more, but you've got to definitely like push questions to them as much as possible. And I mean, like you, I've got the same setup as well. Like I've got the Claude project. Nori is really good though.
All right, we'll check it out.
I've had an old personal rule about this, also, which is your pilot, your surgeon, your CA, your lawyer. Earlier, you didn't want them self-taught and
Hmm.
self-licensed, and now you don't want AI versions of them. Like other than these four, like everything else is good.
You know, the problem is that these are supposed to be professional services. And
Yeah.
as things like there's such a demand supply mismatch for all of these services. You look at doctors, you look at education, and you look at even lawyers, CAs, all of that.
Yeah.
There's we just don't have enough qualified people to do it. So there's such a demand supply mismatch. And as soon as there's that kind of demand supply mismatch, the clearing price equivalent, which is like
Yeah.
how good you need to be in the market, just goes down completely.
Yeah.
And so there's no incentive to be fantastic, or like the median's just a lot lower, you know? So it's no wonder that these things are better.
All right. I think we can go on and on with Arjun about very various topics. Dhruv, close us out.
All right, Arjun, if you're okay with this, maybe let's raise a glass to Rohan. Tell us his favorite drink, and for all of Rohan's friends who are watching this, they raise a glass too.
Yeah. A Negroni typically, even if it's noon.
Yes.
Man, I miss him, and he was such a great friend to so many people in the startup ecosystem. I'm sure many of them still reach out and remember him every day.
Yeah.
I hope you're doing okay.
I'm doing. But yeah, no, thank you. Appreciate that, guys. And thank you for having me here as well. I can't typically get a text back from Utsav, by the way. And so my last 4 messages have gone out to him, and then it's a message being like, "Hey, Misha's doing. Can we do a podcast?" So I'm not gonna let that slide.
I will come to you next week. We will grab lunch whenever you're free. I will personally come to you and grab lunch with you.
All right. Good to
Right.
see you guys. I'll go.
Thanks, Arjun. Thank you. All the best.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Very nice speaking with you.
By the way, are you selling anything in the OFS? You're not
No.
selling, but are you
No.
selling anything after that, or long term? This is just
Stocks only go up.
hold till the grave.
Yeah.
All right. Cheers.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.